Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and it's Monday. You know what that means. It's time to get back to the waiver wire for Week 3 in the NFL. Can you imagine? We're here already. I know we got a couple Monday night games left to play, so I'm sure some more waiver wire news will be breaking, but that's okay, because we'll be here Tuesday on the live stream on our YouTube channel as well to help us break down the guys that are available, who to pick up, who to drop. Of course, Pat Fitzmaurice is back yet again with us, and Andrew Erickson stepping in to help us find some names to roster this week. And we've got a lot, but speaking of things we've got a new sponsor on the show today, which is really exciting. Our new sponsor, of course, is Puka Juice. Take a look on it right here. There it is. Puka Juice. Thanks to Pat Fitzmaurice, an amazing moment last week on the show. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you can see if you are thirsty for receptions and fantasy points, try Puka Juice. This is your target whenever you're looking to target that thirst quench that you have. It's delicious. I've been drinking it all week. Pat, you've got to be really pleased. Let's talk about Puka Nakua while I have a little of the Puka Juice myself here that, again, Pat Fitzmaurice endorses the Puka Juice. I'm going to drink the Puka Juice. It's delicious.
Oh, man, and it comes in a pouch. I haven't had a juice pouch since grade
it's in a pouch. See, Puka knows what he's doing. Puka puts the juice in the pouch. He says, here, take this with you on the go. It's so good. Certainly from a fantasy perspective, it was pretty good, Pat. We're looking up here, was it like 25 receptions, 260 plus yards here in a couple of weeks? That's not too shabby, eh?
I know, not bad at all, Joe. And unfortunately, there's no Puka Juice for us to hawk on the show this week. But, you know, if only the Rams had some other wide receiver who was worthy of our fab dollars. Oh, wait, maybe they do.
Yeah, they might have a running back, too, that is already highly rostered. But apparently, Cam Akers and Sean McVay in the month of September, Andrew Erickson, the saga continues. So we're going to have to go to that. Erickson, what did you think of that news when that broke yesterday?
I mean, fool me once, shame on me. I don't know. What do you want me to do? Like, it's one of those things where it's like you could have seen this coming from a mile away, and it's like, I wanted to believe, and then I started to kind of get, a little bit shaky on Akers as Kyren Williams wasn't also playing in the preseason. So I was like, all right, maybe I should back off a little bit of Cam Akers. So I didn't have as much of Cam Akers exposure as I probably had in the middle of the offseason. So I'm glad I backed off a little bit, but it's just an unfortunate situation. It seems like they just have this beef that we don't know. I hope that Cam Akers writes something in the Players Tribune that we can read and we can figure out like what happened. I just want to know at this point. Like, please just tell me what he did, like what caused the disconnect, because there have been really great highs with Cam Akers and Sean McVay, and then there's just like bottom lows where it's like 1 minute he's going to get 25 carries in a game and the next he's on the trade block and is inactive. I just don't. Even Cam Akers tweeted out, he's like, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So, like, maybe he doesn't know. I don't know. But let's see him just get on a different team, just get another opportunity just so we can use him.
Well, let's see who can use this week in the waiver wire. Last week, obviously, some expensive guys. We talked about Gus Edwards. He came through. That was a positive. Puka, obviously, very expensive. The Puka Juice was not cheap. Let me tell you. This one pouch, Pat, this was like $49 fab dollars this cost. It was a lot to just get this pouch.
It's the Dom Perignon of juice, Joe.
It really is. It's the Chris Dahl of snack pack stuff. But this week, we're going to go right back to that waiver wire because we might have a running back trending in the right direction. Our sleeper waiver wire pick up of the week, Roschon Johnson. He is rostered in 51% of leagues right now. That number is climbing. Deonta Foreman was a healthy scratch this week. Now, I know the Bears are 0-2 and they do not look good. But Pat Fitzmaurice, I think we got to start here with Roschon because we were saying in the offseason, this seems like the most talented back in this backfield. Over time, he's going to win out, but it seems like maybe that win might be looking sooner like it's going to be end of September, maybe not end of October. I understand the Bear situation is fluid. It's still kind of weird. Khalil Herbert, still the lead guy theoretically, but in your opinion, with him available in half of leagues, should people be aggressive on Roschon Johnson this week?
I think so, Joe. It seemed like this was going to be a murky three-way backfield all year, but now they apparently have soured on Deonta Foreman, and I think Roschon's skill set sort of takes away the need for them to have Foreman. Like, Roschon can do everything Foreman can do, and he's a lot better in the passing game. Foreman's just a complete non-entity as a pass catcher. Now, they still used Khalil Herbert a lot yesterday, but the Bears offense just isn't working. So maybe they need to change their identity a little bit. And maybe that means like aggressively using Roschon in the running game a little bit more. Because I think there's just too much on Fields' plate right now. And I'm not making excuses for Justin Fields. He's been pretty horrible so far. But
yeah, don't throw screen passes on your own 5-yard line at the end of the game. Don't do that. You know, that's a bad look.
Yeah, this team they need like an in-season offensive makeover. And I wonder if Roschon Johnson might be a big part of that.
Erickson, in terms of fab, is Roschon somebody you're going to be aggressive on? Like, what kind of percentage would you be looking at? Because to Pat's point, they need a new identity. Roschon could be that guy. And certainly nothing's working right now, so you might as well try to find something else that might be able to work. Is Roschon that piece that could change things for the Bears offense?
I mean, I just think that the ground game in general, like, I know that everyone wants to just put Roschon as RB1, but like Khalil Herbert has been just as good. Like, he's been fine. Like, what is he supposed to do? He got 7 carries. Like, what is he supposed to do? He had 35 rushing yards. Like, that's a pretty good yards per carry. Rushed for 3 first downs. Like, they need to run the ball more overall. So, yeah, I think Roschon is still like, I definitely want him have on my bench. But unless Khalil Herbert gets hurt, like, I still don't see Roschon just becoming RB1. He's going to get 20 touches per game. Like, I like Roschon as a prospect, but I am not writing off Khalil Herbert as a super explosive rusher that is still not getting enough volume. Like, he's really not. Like, even last year when he was starting games over David Montgomery, like, he was more productive, but he's not getting enough touches either. So they need to dial back the passing game, the pass attempts, and get back to running the football if this Bears offense is going to have any type of success moving the ball. So for me, Roschon's probably more in that 10% range. I do like him having on my bench, but he's still the backup running back on the Bears offense. Like, don't get that twisted. Like, that's a thing. And that's how encouraging is that for fantasy football? Like, maybe not that great unless Herbert gets hurt.
All right. So you're at 10%. What fab are you at for Roschon, Fitz?
I'm a little higher. I'm at like 16%. And, in our weekly waiver article, we recommend 3 different bids for people on players. We have a true value bid. And I think the true value of Roschon is probably about where Erickson has him at 10%. But I just don't think 10% is going to win him in most leagues.
Right.
So then we have sort of a desperate need bid. Like, if you really need help at running back, what would you bid? And I think for Roschon, like, it's the desperate need is maybe closer to 20 or at least upper teens for percent of your fab bid. And then we also have like, the low ball bid where you're just throwing something out there and maybe you can get them, but you're really not expecting to. So for that, maybe if you throw out a $6 bid, I don't think anyone's going to be asleep on Roschon at this point. But yeah, so for me, I'm at about 16%.
Okay, about 16 there for Pat, 10 for Erickson when it comes to Roschon. So once again, look at the circumstances of your team and what your needs are and try to figure that out, how to bid for your specific rosters. Now, one guy that we know is already rostered everywhere is Tyreek Hill, and we told everybody we were giving away that jersey this past week from bettingpros.com, and we are today the big winner, Seth Batista. Congratulations, Seth. Take a victory lap. You are the winner. Get in touch with us over on customer support agents at mailbag at fantasypros.com. Again, that's mailbag at fantasypros.com with your mailing address and proof of your subscription to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, and we will get that jersey shipped out to you. Again, Seth Batista, congratulations. You're the big winner. Hit us up, mailbag at fantasypros.com. Also, we got a new jersey coming your way. So from one big dog wide receiver to another, coming off a really good game in week 2. How about Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers? That's right. This jersey can be yours, courtesy of Betting Pros. All you got to do is drop a comment below, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Fantasy Pros. That's it. Boom. You are entered to win. We're giving away these amazing jerseys all season long, but don't forget, click that little bell till it goes ding so you know every time a piece of content drops. And if you are the big winner of the Deebo Samuel jersey. Let's keep going on with the waiver wire. And as Pat mentioned, that waiver wire article is up already. We are always first to market, ready to rock and roll on the waiver wire. Let's talk about Zack Moss, Andrew Erickson, 56% rostered. Again, this guy is right on that precipice. Sometimes we don't talk about the players this highly rostered, but it's early yet, so we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence. So Erickson, when it comes to Moss and the situation here with Indianapolis, especially with Anthony Richardson now with the concussion being questionable heading into week 3, how do you approach Zack Moss's waiver wire value?
I want him. He played 98% of the snaps in week 2. Like that is unheard of usage for a running back coming off a broken arm. Like, come on. And he was productive with the touches that he got. So I would rather have him than Roschon because he's the starting running back. And we saw with Gardner Minshew, him coming in here, he was fine. Like Gardner Minshew has been a professional quarterback in the NFL for multiple years. If I was the Jets, I'd be like, hey man, like how can we get Gardner Minshew over here ASAP Rocky? So for me, I think Moss is the guy that you want if you need a starting running back to plug in your lineup in week 3. I'm not sure what the matchup is, who the Colts are playing, but I think that Moss, just given the floor and volume that he's seeing in that offense that doesn't really have a lot of playmakers, like they want to run the football, especially if Richardson has to miss. So for me, it's Zack Moss because we still have 2 weeks away from Jonathan Taylor coming back, and who knows when he actually is eligible to come back off the PUP, if he's actually going to end up playing, given the contract, good negotiations. So I like Zack Moss a lot.
All right. How much do you like him in terms of fab spend, Erickson?
Well, 16% seems like a good number to get to be aggressive, as Pat kind of alluded to with Roschon. So I'll say 16% for Zack Moss.
All right. Do you feel the same way as Erickson when it comes to Zack Moss, Fitz?
Yeah, and boy, it's interesting. I think Cam Akers and Deion Jackson are going to be playing gin rummy together all week because Deion Jackson, talk about having the rug pulled out from underneath you. Like he's starting in week 1 with Moss still recovering from his broken arm, and then he is just a non-factor. As Erickson mentioned, Moss played all but one offensive snap for the Colts yesterday. So the only issue with Moss is that he's definitely a Band-Aid. Like he's got a 2-week window because Jonathan Taylor, we had a report, I think it was last week, that Jonathan Taylor was expected to pass a physical and report as soon as he was eligible to come off IR in week 5. And as soon as Taylor's back, I mean, Moss, his fantasy value turns to dust. So, but we do have 2 weeks where we're going to get heavy Zack Moss usage. So I think you have to calibrate this. Like if you have an urgent need, if you are, for instance, a Saquon Barkley stakeholder and very likely looking at not having him for at least a week, maybe two weeks or longer, yeah, then I'd bid aggressively on Moss. I think like 16, 18% would be warranted. But for longer term investment, this might not be the droid you're looking for.
All right, well, let's continue to see some other droids maybe we want. Chuba Hubbard right now is 24% rostered on Sleeper. Fitz, this offense, we don't have necessarily the most hope in, I think so far. I think we were clear about that in the offseason, but we're also looking at trying to get, more running back depth. So how do you approach Hubbard, who seems like he might be one of these pieces that as the season goes on, he could prove to be a little bit more valuable?
Yeah, I'd be willing to go up to maybe, 8 or 9% for him. I think he's a good guy to add if you have an overall depth problem at running back, because I think he could be sort of a spackle back for you who can have a little bit of playability every week. If you've got a hole to patch, you're not going to be super excited about Chuba Hubbard, maybe his, 6 to 8 weekly PPR points, but it's better than nothing. And there's also a little bit of lottery ticket value, because if anything were to happen to Miles Sanders, Chuba's value would certainly spike.
All right, Erickson, when you're talking about Chuba Hubbard, same thing. Pat mentions the potential for spike in value. Is now a good time to maybe bid on him? And if so, how much?
Yeah, I think that he's probably someone you can get probably pretty cheap. Like that's probably the way I would play it. I wouldn't bid super aggressively necessarily because I don't think you have to. Like you don't want to waste your valuable fab dollars. So I think for me, it's probably more in that 5% range, maybe a little bit lower, depending on how my league is aggressive on running backs. But I like how Fitz brought up, Hubbard has some standalone value. So you're not just getting zeros. Like he's not just like a straight handcuff. So like in deeper formats, if you went 0 RB, you drafted J.K. Dobbins. I'm talking about one of my teams in the FFPC right now where I had to start some really sad running backs this week. I wish I had Chuba Hubbard on my team, but that would be the approach I would use with Hubbard, and I think that he does have some intrinsic upside.
So you're like what, the 3% range? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I just don't think people are super on Chuba Hubbard, especially hasn't played, in week 2 yet. So I think that he's someone that I would try to kind of sneakily add to the back of my bench.
He was somebody that I was sneakily drafting to all my teams too, because I just was kind of waiting out that situation. Fitz, when it comes to Moss, you mentioned kind of in that 7% range, Chuba Hubbard in the 8% range. Do you think that, I guess from those percentages, Hubbard is the better long-term investment, right? In your opinion?
Yes, definitely.
Obviously, because of JT, right?
Yeah, if JT comes back, Moss is just worth nothing. He's droppable in week 5 if JT comes back.
All right, one more guy to talk about, and it's probably why everyone's screaming at us, why aren't you talking about Kyren Williams? What the hell are you guys doing? Well, we're not talking about Kyren Williams as much at the top because he's 63% rostered already on Sleeper. So when you're looking at some of these players, you have to understand that most of these guys are already on teams. So we want to make sure we're giving everybody the opportunity to look at some of the guys that are 50% or under. 63 is a pretty high roster percentage. And he was a guy we did talk about at the end of last week's show. In case you missed that, you can go back and watch. But now the circumstances, I would say, not a little bit different, but a lot of it different, because Cam Akers is the subject of trade rumors. Now, I don't know if he's in the doghouse and the trade rumors are because, or like a separate thing, or if somebody said, hey, we want Cam Akers, and the Rams said, okay, we have to sit him out because we got a potential deal and we can't have him get hurt. I don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. If only, where's NFL Insider, Andrew Erickson? Where do you, come on, Erickson, where aren't you? Is your phone going off right now? What are you doing? Anyway, Kyren Williams, 63% rostered. Here's my question to you, Erickson. How aggressive do you want to be if he's still floating around there in your league? Because look, 40% of leagues, he's still out there.
Yeah, I would be pretty aggressive trying to get him. I'd probably even say north of 20%, 25%. He played 95% of the snaps in week 2. Like, Sean McVay has chosen his guys.
Yes.
It's Puka, it's Kyren Williams, and those are the guys he's rolling with this year until they get hurt or anything like that happens. So, again, I am concerned about Kyren Williams, like how long he can keep this up. He's an undersized running back who's dealt with injury, so he's someone I almost kind of think about adding and flipping for maybe a more steady asset long term. But I still want to get him on my roster because he has a lot of value that you can get in trade or just on your roster to plug in a hole. So again, I'd rather more than Zack Moss. So I said 16% for Zack Moss. I'd probably say 25% for Kyren Williams. Again, he had 24 opportunities in week 2. Like, no other Rams running back is playing at all in this offense. It's just Kyren Williams. And if anything, if Kyren Williams is already rostered, the next guy up is Ronnie Rivers. Like, that's the next guy that Sean McVay has chosen for this Rams RB role, because Cam Akers is going to be out of the picture sooner rather than later. So in deeper formats, Ronnie Rivers is someone, hey, let me just throw him on the back of my bench. Ronnie Rivers had one game last year. We actually saw a significant amount of work because it was his game where Sean McVay chose him to be the RB1. So I would be aggressive on Kyren Williams, and in deeper formats, Ronnie Rivers looks like the next guy up.
A fascinating situation there. So would you be Pat number one, where Erickson is in terms of, hey, pick up Kyren Williams because he has value and then look to flip him? And then B, is Ronnie Rivers somebody for a buck you should be sneaking underneath the waiver wire too and being really proactive?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could do that. It does seem like Ronnie Rivers is ahead of Zach Evans, their 6th round draft pick. So, yeah, I mean, Kyren is I didn't ever think I would be willing to spend like 30% of my fab on Kyren Williams, who, I can remember him running the 40 at the combine, and he was kind of a small guy to begin with. And as soon as he clocked that 40 time, I was like, oh boy, that does not bode well for his NFL future. Small and slow is generally not a good combination for an NFL running back. But he doesn't play all that slow. Like, Kyren Williams looks quick enough when he plays. So, and he seems to fit in with what Sean McVay wants to do on offense. Like, they are not going to be a ground and pound team. And, with Kyren, you're not really showing your hand. Like, you can run or pass with Kyren Williams in your backfield. And maybe that's a little bit of the issue with Akers, that having him back there, it seems like it almost telegraphs the run. So I don't know. You've got a lead back floating around in some leagues. Maybe it's only 10-team leagues, but if I needed help at our running back, yeah, I would absolutely be aggressive in bidding for Kyren Williams.
All right, tell me who you're going to drop. Just say drop if you want to get rid of this player. Deion Jackson, time to drop him or hold? Fitz?
Oh, yeah, drop. Done.
Erickson, Deion Jackson, drop or hold?
Gone.
Deonta Foreman, Erickson, drop or hold?
Gone. Drop.
Fitz, gone. Deonta Foreman, gone. Everyone's cleaning house. How about Rashad Penny, Fitz? You want to drop him too?
Oh man, I
mean,
feel
Swift
like this
was so good the other night. I mean, I know this is a frustrating thing.
I know Penny is just nowhere on that depth chart. But if we were to get an injury or two, we've got a guy who has been the most efficient runner in the NFL for the last 2 years, behind the best offensive line in football.
Well, you can say hold then if it's a hold.
Yeah,
It's a hold.
I'll stash him away. If you have shallow benches and you got to move, you got to move. But if you have deeper benches, I would like to hold on to Penny a little longer.
All right, this is where Fitz is the voice of reason, and Andrew Erickson's going to say drop. Go ahead.
Dropping him. He's a week away. He's a week away from a week away. When are you going to know you can start Penny? It's like, okay, well, Swift's got to get hurt,
All
and then
right,
Gainwell's got to get hurt, and then Boston Scott's got, like, there's so many things that have to play out where, okay, now I can finally start Rashad Penny. And I just think that's not a situation I want to be in. I do want to bring up another one. I think Damian Harris is someone you can drop. Like, he's playing behind Latavius Murray.
Yeah,
So
that ain't good.
If someone is holding on to Damian thinking that, okay, if James, it's like, you're just praying he scores a touchdown, which he did last week, and that's really hard to project on a week-to-week basis. So if you need to make a move, I think Damian Harris, who's rostered in a decent amount of leagues, I think that he's someone I would be okay moving on from.
All right, real quick, give me the name that excites you the most on this list. Justice Hill, Tajay Spears, Matt Breida, Devon Achane, Sean Tucker. Of those guys, Erickson, who would be the one that you'd want to go after? Is it Spears?
I think for immediate production, probably be Hill, because he's the starting running back for the Ravens.
Okay.
But for long-term, it would probably be Spears.
How about you, Fitz? That group, Hill, Spears, Breida, Achane, and Tucker.
I have to agree. I mean, as much of a fan of Devon Achane's game as I am, like, I don't see him getting a substantial role with the Dolphins. It just seems like maybe by the time, I don't know,
I think it's like week 8.
Yeah, if Mostert were to go down, I mean, Jeff Wilson's going to be back soon, and then maybe Wilson gets the bulk of the workload. So I think it's Spears. I mean, exciting lottery ticket if anything were to happen to Derrick Henry. I mean, Spears would be a guy you would want to start every week.
Yeah, he looked good yesterday, that's for sure. All right, football is back and in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered in the action of every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, that's who, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 offers every game day this September. So get in on the action yourself for week 3 in the NFL with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use that promo code FantasyPros to sign up. New customers bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code FantasyPros. Don't forget, FantasyPros. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Let's see if we can get some wide receivers that might be yours this week. I want to start with a conversation about Jayden Reed. Christian Watson out again last week, Pat, for your Green Bay Packers. Jayden Reed continuing to get work in this offense. He's just 19% rostered. This is a player I picked up everywhere last couple of weeks, and then this week I had to make some tough decisions, and I had to drop him in one league, and I was really mad about it, and now I'm even more mad. So what do you think about Jayden Reed? Is this a stash for a lot of people on the waiver wire they should be looking at?
Yes, I think so, Joe. Really exciting with the ball in his hands. That's the plus thing. Like, this guy can make things happen, make big plays, doesn't necessarily need a lot of touches to score a lot of fantasy points, but the one thing I'd be a little cautious about is he is their third receiver. And even with Christian Watson out, like, he has not been playing regularly in 2 receiver sets. So you're not going to get quite the snap participation, quite the route participation that you get with Romeo Doubs. And once he's back, Christian Watson. Like, I think he's useful as maybe like a flex value type guy, but I don't know if the usage is quite attractive enough for you to like rely on him every week as a week in, week out starter.
So like a 5% kind of bid on him, because look, bye weeks are going to be upon us before we know it. Yep. I think he could be a very useful guy throughout that. Erickson, how about Jayden Reed for you? Because Jordan Love, I think, has played relatively well these first 2 games. Like, I think if you're the Packers right now, you got to be looking and saying, hey, we could win this division, because I think they can. I know they lost this week, but it was a close game. They were in it. It was on the road. I think, they go back home this week. What do you think about Jayden Reed?
I love Jayden Reed. Loved him coming out of Michigan. I thought that he was a player that checked off a lot of boxes, and the fact that he's producing right from the get-go, I'm not surprised. So he's stepping up without Christian Watson in the offense. He's a team-high 25% target share of the first 2 weeks of the season, and he's not even playing a full allotment of snaps because he's really limited to that slot role in the offense. But with Christian Watson coming back, that's going to impact more of the perimeter receivers, like the Wicks, like like Romeo Doubs. Like, that's kind of the targets he's looking at. And Christian Watson, like, yes, he's a super efficient receiver, but he's not like a volume hog. I would say I would describe his style, where Jayden Reed, that's been Jordan Love's guy the last 2 weeks. Like, he's the underneath guy. He's making splash plays because he's fast. So I like Jayden Reed a lot. I would go up to like 10%. I want him on my roster because I think he's just showing off how good of a player he is. And I want those guys during bye weeks where, okay, maybe it doesn't always shape out to be the right thing in terms of targets, in terms of the matchup, but I know Jayden Reed is good. And through 2 weeks, that has been confirmed for me in the NFL. So I'm going to be more aggressive on Jayden Reed here. I like a 10% bid on him.
10, okay, I was going to ask you, so 10%, a little bit more. I'm a little closer to Erickson's price. I think with buys, he becomes a really intriguing wide receiver. And look, we're still waiting for Christian Watson, and who knows what the guarantees are of when he's back healthy and how he looks. Rashid Shaheed, another guy, I know Debro and I yesterday talked about him quite a bit. I know he's playing tonight, so we'll see how it goes, but he is 45% rostered right now. Erickson, is Shaheed somebody, again, for that same concept of you want to build some wide receiver depth as we're going to start getting into buys in the next few weeks? Is this another guy you would have your eye on?
Yeah, I think so. Super efficient as a rookie, flashed in week 1 immediately, even though he wears an atrocious number 22 jersey. Like, I can't with these receivers wearing 20 weird. Numbers. Like,
it bothers me, but
this needs
I'm glad
to be
you're
outlawed.
saying it, because I'm always the old cranky guy here on the show. I don't like when these guys are wearing the numbers that aren't in the 80s at wide receiver.
It's horrible.
But 22 is terrible. I'm okay with the 11s and even the single digits, but 22 is ridiculous.
No,
Thank you.
It is atrocious. I thought it was Mark Ingram running a wheel route, and I was like, wait, who is that? Oh, wait, that's Rashid Shaheed. Sick. But yeah, no, he's been flashing, and we know Michael Thomas is not necessarily someone you can rely on for the long term. So an injury to him, now you put Shaheed right alongside Chris Olave. And when we see these guys play together, we've seen Shaheed outproduce Chris Olave at times. Last year, he's obviously caught the touchdown last week. So I think that Shaheed, definitely a good bench stash for me. I'd probably put him at 10% as well.
Okay, Jayden Reed. Another one. How about you, Fitz? Your feelings on Shaheed?
Yeah, I like him a lot. He is the third receiver in this offense, but, the Saints do have the easiest schedule in the NFL. They are not going to face a lot of lockdown defenses this year. So that's another thing going in Shaheed's favor, and he really does pass the eye test. I mean, like, he had that off-the-charts efficiency, so, we stat nerds were digging Rashid Shaheed before this year, but, like, you watch him play, and the guy's just good. Like, he could be a starting receiver on most other teams, but, he's on a team that happens to have Chris Olave and Michael Thomas. But as a third wheel, like, he can still be fantasy viable. I wouldn't feel wildly confident about putting him in my lineup right now. But, boy, if anything were to happen to Thomas or Olave, I think he's like an auto start every week.
So what's your percentage on Shaheed?
Oh, man. I could
3
go
to
like...
5?
Yeah, something like that. And if I were desperate at wide receiver, I'd be willing to go up to 7, 8, 9.
And don't forget, everybody who's listening who doesn't have Fab, we take care of you because we give you our rankings at the end too of your waiver wire priorities for those leagues that are still doing that. Marvin Mims, I'm going to make Erickson wait to talk about Marvin Mims because I mean, Fitz, 21% roster for Mims. Look, 2 targets last week. 2 receptions for 9 yards. This past week, 2 targets, 2 receptions for 113 yards, and a score. So a little different day for Marvin Mims. Obviously, we could talk about the Jerry Jeudy return, what that means, but is Mims somebody else at wide receiver that people should be paying attention to?
I don't think so, Joe. I mean, the snap and route participation, very minimal, like just didn't play much and just happened to cash in big time on his opportunities in week 2. So unless they were to, and maybe Sean Payton does get desperate here with the Broncos 0-2 and sort of struggling on offense, unless there's some sort of major sea change, like where he decides to kick Cortland Sutton to the curb or something like that, I just don't know that we're going to see enough of Mims for him to be fantasy viable.
How about you, Erickson? I know you were a fan of Mims going into draft season at the end, especially. Do you think that he is somebody people should throw a couple bucks on?
I mean, he's wide receiver 5 in terms of snaps on the depth chart. So you can't trust that. Like, you're just praying that he does exactly what he did last week. But is that just because he's a rookie?
Like, is that something that... Look, they're 0-2, so they've got to try to do some other things, right?
But they didn't have Jerry Jeudy even playing a full allotment of snaps, and they were just like, no, we're not going to play Marvin Mims more. Like, and we saw it in the game. Like, they were winning because Marvin Mims was making plays. It's like, get on the bench. Like, this Denver offense is a mess right now. Like, it was super overvalued because of Sean Payton, like, coming in, like, my magic touch, ding, 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 and 2 weeks in, 0-2. Great. Lost to the Commanders and the Raiders. Like, Are you serious? So right now, I don't trust Sean Payton to get this offense going. Like, he is the one that's actually making me the most concerned about Mims' usage. And even like the running backs, like all of it, it's just gross. So for me, I just can't hold him on my bench until I see his snaps increase.
I mean, they were winning decisively at half, so maybe we should hang some on the defense a little bit too. All right, so I just had a sip of Puka juice. It was very good, by the way. It's very good. And in honor of the Puka juice, let's talk about Tutu Atwell because he's just 32% rostered. And I think he was I think he was that guy, Erickson, that everybody every year sees in week 1, and everybody goes, nope, that's the trap. I know this. The Tutu Atwell can't possibly be a thing. Well, now it's 2 weeks, so Erickson at 32%, is this a guy people should be adding? Is Tutu Atwell a thing?
I think that I'd still rather have a lot of the other guys we talked about, like Reed and Shaheed. Like, Atwell's been in the league for a while, and he really hasn't had a massive role. And I think that he's the one that's most likely to lose out when Cooper Kupp eventually returns to the offense. Like, we've seen Atwell be in the offense. He was kind of productive at the end of last year, so he's kind of carrying that over a little bit this year. I think that if you're looking to start someone, like, immediately, okay, I think that he kind of fits into that kind of Zack Moss mold, but more of at the wide receiver position. So you're just looking to kind of fill a hole, because I think that his long-term outlook's probably not as great. Again, obviously like a Puka, where he's a rookie and he's immediately smashing. Atwell's been in the league for a little bit, and I think he's just kind of benefiting a little bit just from how fast-paced, how many plays the Rams are running. Like, Matthew Stafford just like basically doing everything in his will to get this ball down the field to his receivers. So, I mean, I have to imagine like Higbee's going to see his targets increase eventually at some point, and that could hurt Atwell as well. But I think for right now, he's probably just a Band-Aid ad, the way that Fitz describes Zack Moss.
Well, man, this is a pretty good Band-Aid, because this is 8 targets week 1, 9 targets week 2, 119 yards week 1, 77 last week. Fitz, your thoughts on Tutu Atwell? Should people be looking to add him, or to Erickson's point, is he more just I guess like a Band-Aid on that temporary situation if you're waiting on wide receivers to get healthy or start to produce?
Yeah, I'm surprised about how excited I am about Tutu Atwell, because I'm a noted sizist, especially in dynasty leagues with my wide receivers. And, when you've got a guy who is 165 pounds, basically the size of my average-sized high school-age son, and
5'9", 165, I see right here.
And I mean, this guy's usage has been terrific, and like, I feel like it's going to stick. And Erickson makes a good point with his framing about like the short-term value versus the long-term value. But at the same time, I mean, they sent Cooper Kupp halfway across the country to see a specialist about his hamstring. Like, I am not under the illusion that Cooper Kupp is just walking right back in week 5 as soon as he's eligible to come off IR, good as new. I'm betting the over on a week 5 return. Like, I don't know what point it's going to be. I mean, it could be like November. So,
that's a good point. So give me the percentage on how aggressive do you want to bid on Tutu Atwell? Because from your perspective, you think this could be somebody that we're talking a month worth of productivity, where Erickson's talking maybe a week or 2.
You could get him for 7 or 8, and I would not feel guilty about that expenditure. I love the way they've been using him. I love how like Sean McVay uses him on jet motion to get Tutu a running start and get him open. Like, it's exciting. Tutu is definitely a part of the Sean McVay game plan for 2023, which has been a lot more exciting than we thought it was going to be. So, I'm in on Tutu.
All right, Erickson, what was your percentage on Tutu? Just to 222. That was a lot of tutus there in one.
I'll go with 8%.
Okay, Tutu as well, 8% there for Erickson. So there you go, both around 8%. So even though different perspectives, same amount of fab. It was a beautiful thing. All right, who do we want to drop at wide receiver? Darnell Mooney, Erickson, you want to drop him?
Yes.
Drop. Fitz, you're shaking your head. Yes. All right, we're dropping him. Alan Lazard, are we going to drop him?
No Rodgers, no fantasy value for Alan Lazard, period.
No woman, no cry. Erickson, you want to drop Alan Lazard?
Yes.
Okay.
100% drop.
There you go. Garrett Wilson did have that touchdown, much to everyone. We were burying Garrett Wilson.
One of his 2 catches.
But like, that's the thing. Like, that's why you don't bench him completely. But the value of him as a wide receiver 3, it's clear. Like, if he doesn't have that minute, right? He doesn't have that moment where something really special happens, where he taps a ball to himself for a touchdown, or he gets loose and that one defender falls down, and that one of, as you said,
that's a totally sustainable formula.
Oh, totally sustainable. Look, you got an extra week to trade him now. That's how I look at it. It's like, hey, you got another touchdown out of him. You can say, look, he's got 2 touchdowns in 2 games with Zack Wilson. Tell that to somebody who doesn't watch or really understand what's going on. Wide receiver worth adding. I want to throw out this name too. Tank Dell. I had him in DFS yesterday. He was a free square. Erickson, should people be watching Tank Dell on the waiver wire? Because he is just 20% rostered too.
I would 100% add Tank Dell. He played more snaps than Nico Collins did. He had more targets than Nico Collins did. And this was his first game like as a full-time player in the Texans offense. CJ Stroud threw for 340 yards. Like, CJ
I
Stroud
know.
is good.
Don't remind
So,
me. I sat him in a league because I was worried about the shoulder, and that was a giant mistake that I made. So.
And I believe that they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 3, who
That's
has
correct.
a secondary that I am not afraid of whatsoever. So I think that Tank Dells is going to continue to feast, like, honestly. So I like
so
him
give
a
me a
lot.
number. Give me a number on Dell real quick.
10%.
10%. I know you're a little less enthusiastic, Fitz, about Tank Dell, but I'm going to just take over the big pot energy there with Erickson. We're just going to keep plowing through here. No bad words about Tank Dell, little Tank Dell. He's adorable. All right, let's go to the quarterback streams, tight ends, and defenses before we close things out here with the waiver wire priorities of the week and a listener mailbag. Let's go through these real quick. Give me the quarterback, Fitz, that you want to stream this week, potentially in week 3.
I'm going to stick with Derek Carr against the Packers, and at 40%, like, it's just, man, I mean, the long-term playability of Derek Carr with that soft schedule, and I think this is going to continue to be kind of a pass-heavy offense, and I love the weapons he has around him.
All right, how about you, Erickson? Do you have a streaming QB you like this week so far?
Well, I mentioned him earlier, but I like Stroud. Stroud is just ripping the ball downfield. He's hitting his receivers. He showed that when he's facing bad defenses, he can rip it up. And we know that their defense can't stop anybody, so Jacksonville's going to put up points. So I think CJ Stroud's going to have to put up points too. So I like Stroud.
Erickson, how about a streaming tight end you like this week? Who is it?
I mean, is Hunter Henry still available? I mean, Hunter Henry keeps catching touchdowns left and right. I like Hunter Henry as a guy that you could potentially stream. And then if not, probably going back to Luke Musgrave. Just like really good usage in the Green Bay Packers offense, playing all the snaps. Not a ton of receptions and targets in week 2, but had opportunities. He's out there, and that is honestly all you're kind of looking for when you're really streaming tight ends at the bottom of the barrel.
Fitz, how about you for streaming tight end in week 3? Who do you have your eye on?
Those are my two as well, Musgrave and Henry. And excited about the Musgrave use. The only thing is you cannot use Musgrave this week against the Saints. So I guess it's got to be Henry. Like, the Saints were murder on tight ends in 2022, and so far again this year, like in week 1, they shut out Chigo Okonkwo. So not Musgrave this week. I like him longer term. This week, go with Hunter Henry. I mean, like, he's really heavily involved in the Patriots passing game.
Fitz, how about on the streaming defense side? Anybody really pop out to you? I had another good week defensively. I had them in DFS this week. They've been pretty good. The Colts 2 weeks in a row have been pretty good. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Chiefs are surprisingly lightly rostered. I guess I understand it coming off a game against the Jaguars. They get the Bears. Already in 2 games, Justin Fields has thrown 3 interceptions and taken 10 sacks. This was
Chris Jones is back.
Chris Jones is back, yeah. And Fields was the most frequently sacked quarterback in 2022. He is a sack magnet. So take the Chiefs.
All right, Erickson, any streaming defenses you think might be worth adding this week?
I mean, I concur with the Chiefs. I mean, I think their opening line was like 12.5-point favorites against the Bears. Like, it is a bad look for Chicago right now. And the fact that Fields he's just a sack machine, man. Like, I don't know what he's waiting for things to happen. So it's just, there's such a high floor with the Chiefs in terms of sacks that they could generate, especially if they're playing with a massive lead. So I would say them. And then if not, Jacksonville is up there. They got dropped because they were playing the Chiefs this week, so they're playing the Texans. I got to talk about Stroud, but you're just looking for dropbacks, looking for opportunities for interceptions, sacks, and the Texans still have a really bad offensive line.
And don't forget, everybody, when you download my playbook, you have all these tools available, including the waiver wire assistant that will help you find these guys in all your leagues, who's available, and then you can go add them. You can also check up on FantasyPros. The waiver wire column is out. We have a ton of waiver wire content every single Monday for you to dive into, and even the live stream on Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern here on the show. So if you've got questions, we've got answers. Ask us on the show. We'll tell you about it. All right, let's go through the waiver wire priorities of the week for those people who don't play with the fab. Fitz, give me the top 5 guys in the order you want to add them.
All right, it's Roschon Johnson at the top. With the possibility of, a usage spike maybe coming down the road. Tutu Atwell is number 2 for me. Like, I think he is far and away the best wide receiver you can add right now. Chuba Hubbard, number 3, and, slightly ahead of Zack Moss. If you do need that immediate help, maybe you bump Moss ahead of Chuba. And then, boy, I'm really torn on number 5. Like, I could go any number of ways here. I could go with another running back, but let's say, I guess I'll say Rashid Shaheed.
Okay, Shaheed. For you, Andrew Erickson, what's that order look like?
So I'm going to go with, Kyren Williams would be 1 if he's still available. Probably then Zack Moss, and then Jayden Reed, Roschon Johnson, And then my last guy would be probably Rashid Shaheed.
Okay, let's close things out here with the listener mailbag. Again, our Discord is free to join, fantasypros.com/chat. That's where you can hang out with us, and premium membership gets you access to a whole lot more. So when you go premium, you get access to our stages, our AMAs, and of course, higher level tools in the My Playbook app, as well as some other perks. So go premium today at Fantasy Pros. Again, fantasypros.com/premium. Here you go. This is from JMG24. Who's the better stash, Shaheed or Jaylen Warren? Fitz, your thoughts on this question?
Jaylen Warren for me. I'm always going to lean running back on stash. I'm a bigger believer in Najee Harris than I think Erickson is, and then Debro is for sure. But that said, I could be wrong on that one, and I'm starting to think the Steelers are going to try to run the offense through their running backs, because maybe the passing game is just not ready for prime time after all, based on what we saw in week 1. So I think Jaylen Warren, potential lottery ticket if anything happens to Najee, and maybe there's a chance he aces out Najee on the merits. Okay,
Erickson, do you agree?
Yep, Jaylen Warren for me. I'd rather stash the running back. Just easier to plug him in if Najee gets hurt. Just automatic start him, as opposed to Shaheed, where you're like, do I start him this week? Boom or bust. I'd rather have the running back.
There you go. Continue to hit that waiver wire and hit it hard, everybody. There's championships to be won. Use the waiver wire assistant over on My Playbook. Also, don't forget about that Deebo Samuel jersey we're giving away. So if you want to win that, subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop a comment below, click the bell till it goes ding, and then you're entered to win. That's all you got to do. And also another fun thing to do is go sign up today at DraftKings using that promo code FantasyPros. $5 will get you $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with that promo code FantasyPros. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson and Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.